Lemonheads, this rules. This book on killing, the psychological cost of learning to kill in modern society. And why I think it ties into what we're talking about is like, how complex are people really, and why do, as you say, you will read a book until it forces you to throw it across the room.
Yeah, that's right.
And you see this in like my wife watches stuff on Netflix where Jace jokes that the shows are always called like the woman who was raped too much.
The woman who was raped until she couldn't be raped anymore.
Until she couldn't be raped anymore. And it's always in a my wife knows they're garbage, but these things suck women in. And
They do.
And gay guys. And I've watched this stuff from afar, and it's always like a lady runs like a flower shop or something, and then like I'll look away and I'll look back, and she's like holding a gun on the guy in the woods, and she like kills him. But it's like it's in defense, right? And this book immediately, discards this notion of like, would anybody kill if they're put in a position where it's you or them? And he says you'd be almost always wrong. Almost always wrong. When it comes to our species, human beings, this guy found out from interviewing, and he fought in Vietnam. He talked to people in World War II, I think maybe all the way back to World War I. I'm not sure how old the veterans were when he was conducting his interviews in the 70s. I think he went all the way back there. That the most common anecdote he saw was people would, get an enemy in their sights and they'd fire above their head. They would intentionally miss. That's right. However, these soldiers did have bravery. They would risk their life to get ammunition. They would rescue their own people. But like, very common anecdote he starts off the book with is a guy going through the tunnels looking for Charlie in Vietnam. He has a snub nose. He shines his flashlight. He sees a little guy there eating rice in a tunnel. He turns off his flashlight, and they both go their separate ways.
It's amazing, right? Like,
and he says he could end the war sooner over a beer with that guy than Henry Kissinger could at the peace conference or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's really amazing to me, man. Like, I didn't want to believe it. When I first started, I read about the book and I was going to buy it. And then I was like, man, I don't want to know that about people, that they're that reluctant to kill. I'm like, I was writing a war novel at the time. I was like, I want to read about badasses doing badass stuff. But then, like, man, this book is a required reading at like West Point, the FBI school at Quantico. Like, this has become such an important book, and it's taught by people who know what they're talking about.
Published in
regards to combat.
Published in 1995. It seems to be this guy's like life's work. Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, who didn't kill anybody himself, but he says, talking to all these generals, he goes, you guys are all, you're talking to all these people about killing, you're thinking about killing, you're writing about killing, you might as well be a virgin talking about sex. You don't know anything.
Exactly.
You have no idea what you're talking about. So, but he tried.
Right. Man, one of my buddies, and I won't say his name, he's a very well-known and like acclaimed novelist, and he was a machine gunner in Iraq, and he's killed a bunch of people. And we were talking about it one day, and he said, man, Aaron, like, there's only one thing they tell you, just don't do this. Like, thou shalt not kill. Like, it's drilled into us at every level. He goes, and you do it. You're supposed to do it. You're trained to do it. You're ordered to do it. He goes, man, like, it fucks you up like nothing else. And I was like, I mean, I've never killed anybody, right? So I was like, holy crap.
You see people die. You've never killed anybody, though.
That's right. I've never killed anybody. No,
but I'm saying this because I'm saying you are not divorced from death. You were lucky enough to grow up in Oklahoma where you did see things die.
all the time.
All the time.
No, my
yeah.
father was killed when I was a little boy, and
Your life is a bit of like a David Allan Coe song.
My life is a David Allan Coe song, exactly. Like, I grew up without a father because he was killed, and I have always been like both horrified by and I don't know if I'm attracted to a violence or it's attracted to me. I've seen a lot of it. It's not good for you, obviously, but I've always been trying to like figure this thing out to the extent that it can be figured out, and think about it, maybe just deal with it, right? Just to keep from going nuts.
Well, this lieutenant colonel says that when kids find out he was in Vietnam, the first question they always ask is, has he ever killed anybody? And he's wondering, like, right. where did that obsession come from? Because it seems to be almost like innate. It's more interesting to people than sex is killing. What he says.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's taboo, right? It's like relatively speaking, very few members of our society have done it. And very few members of our society who are like functioning members, who aren't like, criminals, have done it and been like honored for it. And so the rest of us are like, what the hell is that like? And also it's valorized in everything we watch, in action films and whatever. It's just, badass dudes blowing other dudes away. And I love it too.
Mm-hmm.
But I have questions
there's nothing
about
better
the
than like
of it.
Rambo. Like, just Rambo coming in with a
It's the shit.
It rules.
It's the shit. Yeah. It's awesome. It's the best. But like, okay, here's what I've written for different magazines and everything over the last 20 years. I used to write for Esquire, blah, blah, blah. What I would love to do, like my dream assignment, is I would like to interview like 10 guys who have defended their home with lethal force. Like, like they're in their house, in the middle of the night with their, wife and kids, and a guy breaks in, they have to get the shotgun and blow them away. It's like, and by the way, just don't get it twisted. You're perfectly in the right, both legally and morally, to do so. I have no problem with a dude defending his family. Zero. But what I want to know is, after they pull the trigger, after the guy's dead, what do their lives look like a decade on? I mean, there's no way they live in the house where they did that. There's no way.
You'd think.
There's no way. No.
But, okay.
There's no way their neighbors look at them the same. Their neighbors don't look at them the same. Even if their neighbors are like, fuck yeah, dude. They're like, okay, I live next to a killer now.
But according to the lieutenant colonel in this, that almost seems like a fantasy to me, because he goes, oh, it's you or them. Like, it's not necessarily. In fact, some people would.
Not necessarily.
He says it's actually very common, the posturing element. And this is a fascinating thing to me. Like, when rattlesnakes will fight each other, they're the same species. Right. They're both rattlesnakes. They won't bite each other. They wrestle. They tangle each other. When two animals come together, it's often not, and this is a complete misconception I had in my head, animals will fight to the death if they are in the same species. That is very uncommon. Right. They posture, yes. They try to avoid fighting, if so. One might become submissive, roll over, give in, mm-hmm. They want to avoid conflict. It seems what Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman is getting at in this book on killing, which we're going to get into the implications of this in our society being divorced from death and how it's caused more death and sadness in this world. He thinks, to me, it seems guys who are like badass killers have either been trained to do so through stimuli response through their midbrain, that animal part of the brain he's talking about, or they're born complete and total psychopaths.
Yes.
So that's why when you read a book or when you watch a movie, I mean, I roll my eyes when I'm watching a soap opera and this housewife will like blow a guy away with a pistol as she's like crying because she like had to kill him or something. And I'm like, you got
It's
him.
nuts.
Because it would just never happen. It would
It would
never
never
happen.
happen.
It would
It would
never
never
happen.
happen.
I mean,
And
Aaron,
also,
think about this. People who have home security shotguns, they might put in, why do they put the bird shot in first? If the design is to kill, why do you put the bird shot in first, then the buckshot, then the slug? Why wouldn't you do it the other way? Or why wouldn't you do all slugs, Because you want to fire a warning shot. You do want to avoid killing somebody, even if they are a threat in your home.
Yeah, back to the thing you were saying about, a species will avoid killing its own species because we have biological programming that says, no, we want to continue this species. So we'll kill something else, have no problem doing that, but you don't want to kill the same species. And so there's an imprint in our head that's like, that's a human being, right? It is, it goes farther down than conscious thought. It goes farther down than like morals. It's something far deeper.
Isn't that hopeful?
And
isn't that such a hopeful thought?
It is hopeful. It is hopeful.
Yeah.
It is actually hopeful. Because you think like, well, we've had the opportunity, and it almost happened, for us to like use nuclear weapons and blow up the world. And we pulled ourselves back from the brink, not because like we're more moral, but because guys couldn't like bring themselves to turn the key and hit the button.
That's the only thing I was thinking about as I was falling asleep last night, as I was like, well, we'll never blow up the whole world. But then I realized that there's the outlier. There's the psychopath.
I'll tell you a quick story. So during the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? It was very quick. I'm not going to use thing, but U.S. intelligence intercepted communiques, and we learned that the Soviet Union had implanted ICBM launchers in Cuba, and Castro had asked for them. And then we got a communique that said the Soviet Union was sending intercontinental ballistic missiles, and all these like strategic nuclear weapons to Cuba. And so it was this huge thing. We were on the brink of war, and Kennedy had to stand strong and be really tough in public. And the Soviet Union, they were doing all this posturing. But, Kennedy was like, we can't allow the Cubans to have nuclear weapons, 90 miles off the coast of Florida. It was this huge incident, and the Russians were saying, we'll bury you, and Khrushchev was being really aggro. And so, huge crisis. We were looking down the barrel of nuclear war, and Kennedy said, I don't know what to do. He had his cabinet, do we just need to strike first? I think we may have to fight them anyway. Should we fight them when we have superiority in nuclear weapons, or wait? And Kennedy said, well, one thing I know for sure is that, Khrushchev won't back down. And a guy in the room named Tommy Thompson, who had been ambassador to the Soviet Union and had lived with the Khrushchevs, looked at JFK and said, Mr. President, I think you're wrong. Because I know Mr. Khrushchev, and he's not an irrational person, and he's not a cruel person. And he's looking for a way to get out of this, just like you are, and he's trying to save face. And we just need to find a way to allow him to save face, and he'll turn the ships around, and the missiles won't go to Cuba. And that's what ended up happening, right? So the Russians turned the boats around, the missiles didn't go to Cuba. And so JFK called his cabinet together and he said, listen, we can't say it publicly. The Russians can't say it publicly, but we all know we won, right? The missiles aren't going to be there. The Russians can save face. We won this one. And General Curtis LeMay, who was a hard-nosed psychopath, said, one hell, we should go in and wipe them all out tonight. Now, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm laughing. I mean, it's just funny to me because I also know a lot of those guys had false flags ready in terms of staging, Operation Northwoods. They were like, hey, should we blow up the Mall of America in the name of Cuba or whatever? Crazy shit that they were willing to sacrifice tens of thousands of people in quote unquote terrorist attacks to then get the go ahead to do whatever they wanted. It's really that they view us as that disposable, like all the way back then, is a kind of a horrifying thought. But listening to this kind of posturing, like Grossman calls it posturing. But they're doing it with nukes. They're doing this dance in the wild with nuclear weapons.
But there's a more disturbing part to this story, and it's a postscript, but it's way more disturbing. So the Secretary of Defense was Robert McNamara, and he had served in World War II, and he had served under Curtis LeMay, right? LeMay was responsible for the incendiary bombing of Japan. And it was under LeMay's command that the nuclear weapons or the atomic weapons were used against Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like LeMay let those off the hook. So in 1992, McNamara got the opportunity to travel to Havana and meet with Castro. And because he wanted to talk to this man who was on the other side of the barrel of the gun when the world was almost blown up, right? And so they met and they talked, and they weren't long into it before Castro said, "You're a fool. Like, here's what you didn't know. We already had atomic weapons. We had nuclear weapons. We had the launchers and the missiles. So the Soviet ship bringing the ICBMs, that was just like a reload. We already had those weapons." This is true, by the way. It's something we didn't know in 1962 or 61.
I didn't know this at all. This is fascinating.
Yeah. So Castro had the nuclear weapons. And he had the launchers, and they were aimed at American cities. And McNamara said he was completely flustered. And he was like, "I must be getting the translation wrong. Like, you already have the nuclear weapons?" And Castro said, "Of course." And by the way, this has all been confirmed. This is all true. And McNamara said, "Okay, I only have 3 questions for you. Did you know the weapons were there? Did you know the nuclear weapons were on your island? Would you have ordered them to be launched at U.S. cities? And what do you think the outcome would have been?" And Castro said, "Mr. McNamara, of course I knew they were there. I asked for them. Would I have ordered their launch? No, I wouldn't have. I did. I gave the order. I told them to launch. And what would have happened if the men had obeyed my command? The total annihilation of both of our societies."
So he was saying
that's how close.
So why didn't they launch them?
The Soviet engineers, the Soviet missile operators refused it. Right? So Castro told them to launch. The missile emplacements were manned by Soviet missile techs. And they listened to Khrushchev, and they countermanded Castro's order.
And they were like, so, this YN can't be serious right now. Like this.
Yeah, this guy's out. You tripping. Like, no. But that's, and McNamara says. That's how close we came to nuclear war. And he's like, Castro, for all of his problems, and he's got a bunch, he wasn't an irrational man. He was a rational actor. Khrushchev was a rational actor, and JFK was a rational actor. And that's how close we came to complete annihilation.
Well, and then they go, "Hey, man, we're just posturing with these nukes. Like, you're not actually supposed to use them. Like, you don't actually fight to the death. You know, these aren't alien invaders."
Man, it's crazy. But we do. Okay, so one of the statistics that Grossman drops on us in World War II, out of all the killing that was done, it was only done by 20% of the combat troops.
I found that
So
really
most
interesting.
of the men,
I found that interesting. Yeah.
amazing, right? So most of the troops, and we're not talking about like rear echelon guys, we're talking about frontline combat soldiers, either didn't fire their weapons, intentionally fired their weapons and intentionally missed, or, you know, faked a failure to fire or whatever it was. And so all the killing that was done, and there was a lot of it, was done by like the small percentage of the combat arms personnel. So that really that's really quite amazing. And also, who are these 20%? Because they're not all psychopaths, right? They're guys who are like, no, I had to kill. I was ordered to kill. Like, someone's got to kill these dudes. You know, I thought that's what we were doing.
And whatever we studied in Vietnam, we said, how can we condition 100% of them to become killers?
That's right.
And not just a small
And we got better at it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we got way better at it. And Dave Grossman talks about how immediately, once the U.S. military started getting the data back after World War II, they're like, this sucks ass. So they introduced silhouette targets. And, you know, they went from bullseye to the silhouette of human beings. And then now they've gone from the silhouette of human beings to photorealistic. I remember the last time I was at the range, they have Osama bin Laden targets.
Oh, I forgot you told me this. You said that police or soldiers were training with just bullseyes, and they had to switch to actual silhouettes of people, and then people actually started going out into war and killing for real. So proving that you can be conditioned to become a killer.
Absolutely. Like, you could go, like, in LA, they have gun ranges. You could go get, like, I'm sure they sell silhouettes of Jeff Dye that, you know, you could, you know, fire at all day.
So...
It'd be funny if you go there and you're like, you request it. You're like, could you special order? And they're like, oh, we don't have to special order. We get that all the time. It's fully stocked.
That's so good. Just
pretty good.
Just aim for the bill. It's right between his eyes. He's got his hat so
aim
low.
For the bill. The last cowboy. Hey, if you want to be a cowboy, there's gonna be some people taking shots.
I think he has a gun.
Yes.
He says on podcasts sometimes, he's like, I was worried during COVID I was drinking so hard. You know, I have a gun. He keeps saying he has a gun. Yeah. By the way, he said on his podcast this week that and my wife says I'm not allowed to talk about him anymore, but this is a quick sidebar. He drives a white Cybertruck, and someone got mad at him this week, and he got out of it, and they Sig Heiled him. And he was like, he's like, yo, man. He's like, he said he puffed his chest up. He's like, you like Hitler or something? Like, that's not cool. He was like confronting the guy about. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Ridiculous. And we find out what really happened was he cut an old lady off in traffic. They had a fender bender. Yeah. He got out of his car and started Sieg Heiling her.
You're making it way too interesting. Way too interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, that's actually like, whoa, that's a dangerous dude. Yeah.
Someone did point in the chat, though, in terms of trying to condition them more. I mean, this is when we really, around this time, we started doing a lot of experiments on people to try to turn them into killers. I don't, personally, you might disagree with me here a little bit, But I think there is a reason right around this time you see a big spike in serial killers that claim they're in these death cults. You know, you have the Phoenix program coming out of Vietnam. You have, I think, these people were like, can we condition people to just, you know, just kill? And they did get better at this. I mean, some of the stuff you told me, that is it Delta Force operators, Delta One, that they go through a boot camp? I mean, I don't even know. Can you talk about that or no? Is that a
Yeah.
I
So
saw one of these guys
through-
on Sean Ryan, and he goes, he was talking about joining. Is it Delta One? Is that the one?
It's well, the official unit name is First Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, but they just call it, you know, Delta Force. The guys who are in it call it the unit.
I saw a guy on Sean Ryan, and he goes, he was talking about the boot camp or whatever he had to go through, and he goes, yeah, and then he goes, the swimming portion of it. He looks down, and he goes, that part I actually found pretty easy. And Sean Ryan's eyes got really big, and he goes, I'm just kidding, man. Then they both started laughing, and it was a kind of an inside joke. But you told me actually what happens in these in the training.
Yeah, what the activity used to do is they take you into a room that has a pool inside it, and the pool goes straight down, and there's a tunnel. And the evolution is you get in the pool, you swim straight down, you go through the tunnel, and you're told that there is a well on the other side where you come up. Well, you go down into the tunnel, and then when you're down trying to cross, they drop a grate at the far side. And so you panic and you start swimming back, you know, the way you came down, and they drop another grate. And they keep you there until you drown, and immediately bring you up and resuscitate you. Like, you know, this is part of the drown proofing thing. The SEALs do something, it's not this, but they do something similar in terms of drown proofing, right? So they bring you up, they resuscitate you, and then as you're like sitting in a room, they wheel in a television and they show you video of yourself drowning. And then they say, go get back in the pool and do it again.
Yeah, after you watched yourself die. And then they actually jump in and they do it.
A lot of guys do. Now, some guys, and by the way, all these things are voluntary. At any moment,
They can drop out.
You can voluntarily withdraw at any moment. And by the way, they're begging you to.
I mean, how much easier is it to kill if you're already willing to die at the drop of a hat? And that's what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
Can you be conditioned to sacrifice yourself like an ant on an ant farm?
You got to want it. You got to want it. You got to want it real bad. You have to want that particular thing like you and I want to write the greatest novel.
But
you know, you have to want that.
It's obsessive. You have to be obsessed with you have to become death. These people, I believe, that's just mind control. And there's this Chinese guy, I called him Jordan Beijing Peterson. His name is Predictive History. And he's very good, but he had a whole series about how this goes back to the Egyptians and that we are drawing inspiration. His theory is that this is how the pharaohs became great leaders. So he says with the pharaohs that the priests actually were the ones controlling everything. This is always a thing in stories where the guy who's actually the leader isn't the leader. There's a shadow body of people. That would be the priests. What the priests do to the pharaohs is they go, here's how we make a great leader. We need to give them stories. You know, this is Osiris, Isis, Ra. You know, they have all these myths and everything. And the pharaohs can see themselves as these people in the stories. And they can become, they basically, what the priests do is they get raped, they get drowned, they are tortured, they are, this is just a theory. But basically, once something like that happens to you, you then have the ability to disassociate. So if you want to become a great leader, you have to handle a great amount of pressure in life because there's all these eyes on you. You have way more criticism. There's high pressure situations. So you need to be able to view yourself as a character in a play, not as you yourself. And the only way you can do that is kind of becoming someone else and then observing yourself and saying, isn't that interesting? This is happening to you right now in this movie that is your life. And also you have to be willing to do horrible things to people.
Right.
Because you have to cheat, you have to lie, you have to steal, you have to deny, and because that's how you survive and that's how you climb the satanic ladder. So to be able to treat people like that and to live with yourself, it's very simple. As soon as you do the bad thing, you then basically, and you switch these between these personas pretty instantaneously. You don't even realize you're doing it. You go, well, that wasn't me doing that. That was someone else. That was someone else who, went to Epstein Island and did all those things. That wasn't me. That wasn't me that did that. That was someone else entirely. Because you had all those horrible, horrible, terrible things that happened to you. That's
amazing.
But like, if you wanted a super soldier who was an incredible sniper or general or whatever, yeah, you would want them to drown and watch themselves die on camera. You would want to beat them mercilessly. You'd want to fire machine guns over their head. You'd want to threaten them with death. You'd have to put them in the most amount of pain they could possibly experience. You'd want them to see people die. You would want them to see themselves die on film. This is how you get, these puppets to lead the sheep, basically. And then you, once again, the Pharaoh was not the guy; it was the priests. The priests were the ones that were controlling all of this. So
the interesting thing about Delta guys.
And by the way, I want to say real quick, Michael Aquino. Yeah. Michael Aquino has the Temple of Seth. Set goes back to.
He's the Psyop to Mind War guy, right?
That's right, with Presidio, and he was a big guy during the Satanic Panic. Little kids were recognizing him on TV and saying he abused me in his home in San Francisco.
Gosh, dude.
They would take them from the daycare at Presidio on the Army base. They were shipping kids around. They were doing insane stuff. There were hundreds and hundreds of people that were accused. Regardless, it's a very. This guy, Michael Aquino, said basically that Satanism is a life force. If you study what he says it's a life force, and he broke off from LaVey's group, the Church of Satan. He broke off, started the Temple of Seth, and obviously this goes back to Egyptian stuff. It all goes back to that's where they got their playbook from, the big modern quote unquote Satan. As I suppose. As it goes for the Satanism stuff, all this stuff is just kind of a smokescreen to kind of look ridiculous. But truth be told, they just kind of they really like the aesthetic of it. They probably don't believe in a god or a devil or anything. They just like he's been on record being, we like spooky stuff. They like blood. They like black. They love red rooms. And a lot of them aren't even pedophiles. That's the interesting. I'm swear to you.
You sound almost disappointed. You're like, a lot of them are not even badass. They're not even pedophiles.
I thought that was the thing. I thought a lot of them were pedophiles, but actually, this is just the social cohesion that they get from all incriminating one another and doing horrible things to people, breaking all the taboos. This is the thing that binds them, basically. It's that Monsters, Inc. movie where they're bottling kids' screams to run the factories. It's really that simple.
Okay, confession. I've been an anti-conspiracy. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a bad moment for that transition. Yeah.
Sorry,
I just start confessing to the worst shit on the planet. You're like, oh my gosh.
A little bit of confession.
You're like, I'm worse than Jeff Dye.
By the way, this is very common in Mexico too. It's very common in tons and tons of countries. They find big mass graves, and there's a priest who's sacrificing people. It's not an uncommon, crazy thing at all.
No, it's crazy, but you're right. It's it's not uncommon. So I'm kind of an anti-conspiracy guy by nature. I'm not saying like I'm too smart to be. I'm saying like just by nature, I'm kind of skeptical. But the past, like my girlfriend, she's really into, like, she knows all about the esoteric stuff,
And
you know, and
she has
she's,
emailed me some great archive stuff that I can't find over email. She's been very
yeah,
informative.
yeah.
She's
Oh,
been following 764 stuff for like 10 years. She's known about this group.
she's on it. She knows all that stuff, right? And like, I've always thought, oh, that's too elaborate. That would never happen. But the last few weeks, dude, have completely broken me. This stuff that's coming out about Epstein, I'm like, what a freaking fool you were, Gwen. Like, obviously, I knew like he was a freaking demon, but the willingness of these people to just engage in the most horrific things you could dream up. I'm like, oh my gosh, they are all satanic pedophiles.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane.
I know.
I'm like, why didn't you see this before? Why didn't you, like, it's there. I think you have to really, maybe I didn't want to admit that. I don't know,
I don't know. I
man.
mean, it seems pretty outlandish. If a guy behind, like me, has been sitting behind a desk for 2 years saying everyone's a satanic pedophile, and people are like, okay, like, calm down, and then the files come out, it's like, no, even like Noam Chomsky, like,
Dude,
you know what I mean?
what a fraud that guy is, man. Like, he was like, for the left, he was the like, oh, this is the guy. You know, he had this documentary, Requiem for the American Dream.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Noam was really disappointed in all of us.
He cut
why
off
didn't
ties
we
with his family. Do you see that in emails? His family was like, "Don't hang out with this guy. He's a convicted pedophile. Like, he was trafficking children. He took a sweetheart deal, and he was still."
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to any more lectures from Noam. I think you know, once you and Steve Bannon are giving each other back rubs on Pedophile Island, I think you've lost any credibility you had.
Yeah, I mean,
what a freaking fraud.
I mean,
man.
Steve Bannon is the Nazi pedophile friend of Epstein, and anybody who I believe associates with him is also guilty, no exceptions. But I've always told you, I mean, I've always kind of, I guess, admired Bannon in a way. I think he's actually
he's interesting.
Yeah, he's very interesting.
He's interesting.
I mean, I'm not like
you know,
I'm not a fan of him, but I've always been like, man, he's a fascinating guy, and he's been everywhere.
As a character in a book, right? He's fascinating, but then he's like doing a pedophile documentary with Jeffrey Epstein to like rehabilitate his like image. Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I mean,
it's insane.
I mean, these guys
are also insane.
They're the architects of evil, dude.